Hello, hello, folks. I'm Keasha, and today is Thursday. We are getting here, showing up live for another episode of Konversations with Keasha. Actually, episode 21 to be exact. Today's topic is something I think never really gets old. It's so interesting because we have different ideas about what this might look like when it comes to forgiving and forgiveness. You know, at some point in our lives, we're going to encounter circumstances and scenarios where we have felt hurt or betrayed or disrespected. And it's really important to, understand, the ways that we can help ourselves in releasing the feelings and the connection to the person or the event. So I am so happy to bring on my friend and brilliant leader and entrepreneur and healer who definitely has an interesting take on forgiveness and is going to come on to share some ways that you all can utilize some tools. So hello, everyone. Oh, Zainaid, I see Caitlin, I see Lisane, so I'm gonna bring her on. So y'all hang tight. We'll wait for some more people to join us before we hop on in.
Hello,
my friend.
Did I hear you call me brilliant?
Yes.
How are
you? I did, among other things. And so what I gave a bit of a, trailer or a little synopsis of what we're going to cover today, which is the topic of forgiveness. However, I always give my guests an opportunity to introduce yourself in your own words, to share what you stand for, what you do and why it matters. So, Miss Lisane, Basquiat, go ahead.
So
it's on you. Clean your. You do.
Clearly
Great.
now?
That was good to do that.
Good. I was like,
yes.
There's a little haze there. I don't know if it was my glasses or not. Keasha, thank you so much for inviting me on to Konversations with Keasha. I am really excited to have this conversation with you and with your audience. You want to know who I am and what I stand for?
They want to know. Yes.
Who am I? I am an entrepreneur, and I'm also a life strategist. And what that means, and that's a kind of a bold statement, I realize. I say it, and it's also appropriate. So what a life strategist does is I take the tools that I've learned and earned through neuro-linguistic programming and coaching certifications and all that good stuff, and many, many years of experience of working with people. And I help people to take a look at the quality of their lives and the juiciness and richness of their lives, and at how much of their lives they are enjoying and the parts of their lives that they are not enjoying. And I help them and support them in finding ways to improve and enhance the quality of their lives. And what like is setting boundaries, more self-care, paying attention to their emotional and mental health, paying attention to the choices that they're making and how those choices either contribute to or take them away from the place that they want to be in. So that's what I do as a life strategist. I am also an entrepreneur. I own a female-focused co-working space and business accelerator in California that you're very familiar with, Keasha. And I, along with my sister, Janine, co-administer our brother's estate. He was the artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. And so my sister and I do that. And we have recently curated an exhibition in New York that is coming to LA in March. I'm really excited. And I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a friend, I'm a Black woman in this world. And I am really standing for quality of life.
All right. Thank you. Beautiful. That you are a dynamic, multifaceted human, and so many of us are. And I really want to hone in on the big thing of what you stand for, and that's quality of life. And understanding and making choices and taking the opportunities to really know ourselves and to, I would say, expand that perspective and view of like, okay, what's going on right here? And it's interesting. It can be in the romantic department. It could be in the familial areas, at the career, because they're also interconnected in terms of the places we play and the areas that we engage with others, reflect what's going on with us. And forgiveness, which is the overarching topic that we're going to be discussing today, and how to let go and what that looks like. I would love to jump in and to just get your definition, your own personal definition of what forgiveness is and why is it important to our quality of life.
I love the topic of forgiveness. And I love the topic of forgiveness because it is such an uncomfortable moment for so many people to receive and appreciate. So many of us, myself included, were raised to believe, and I don't think this is just a Northeast, a Northeast thing. I think a lot of us all over the world were raised and programmed to believe that when someone does something that is offensive or what we deem to be wrong or it makes us uncomfortable, that the way to react to that is to be mad and to hold on to that anger toward the person as a way of protecting ourselves. The issue with that is that in order for me to hold on to resentment toward you, and in order for me to maintain that stance of anger, there's something that I have to do to myself. There's some pain that I have to introduce to myself that will hold on to that energy of anger, in order for that energy of anger to stay alive between you and I. And what I know to be true is that being willing to release that anger, being willing to move forward, being willing to release that anger puts us in a position of being able to move forward past a situation that has happened between us. And it doesn't mean that what that person did is okay. You know, my being willing to let go of that anger, that negative emotion, simply means that I've decided to put that negative energy to rest. I can then make a decision about more of a boundaries decision about what to do with that relationship forward or not. But it starts with a willingness to let go of the anger. And that's a lot of people really struggle and resist doing.
And thank you for that. Thank you. I feel, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, yeah, there is anger, there is pain, because anger is an expression of pain, right? And I feel like a reason why a lot of times it's really hard for folks to release it, they don't really know exactly how or what that looks like. And it rocks the narrative, because when you put yourself in a position of, I am the victim or the person hurt, and that's the person who's the perpetrator, you're the villain. So when you create these characters and personas in your narrative, it gets kind of hard because then you have to
Exactly.
come up with a
And
different
people
story for
love the
yourself.
story of,
Right?
he did me wrong, and look at how wrong he did me, or she offended me in some way, or she said something that I didn't, want to hear at the time or wasn't willing to accept. People love to be in a story of righteousness, and there's no blame around that or no judgment around it. It really is about making decisions and really contemplating how we're showing up in these situations that we're in, and whether or not they really are working toward our highest and best good. That's really the question, right? Like, you have this story where this
Yes.
person is horrible and you're the victim, but at the end of the day, what is that really getting you besides a narrative that makes you feel more comfortable about yourself or how things played out?
And that takes a level of what is the word?
Courage,
Self-accountability and encourage, because like you said, it's not a, we're not saying it's wrong, because it's so easy, right? It's justifiable. There's that, it is justifiable to feel the pain and hurt for whatever that circumstance might
right.
be, where you feel somebody's wronged you, or perhaps they literally blatantly did. However, think of Abraham and Esther Hicks. I don't know if you're familiar with them, y'all. Let me know in the chat, y'all, if you know Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. Just to give you a overall, Esther is a woman who channels collective consciousness. She's been doing it for decades, really, and sitting in intimate spaces where people can ask questions about life, lots of recurring themes, and she provides an answer. And so I was listening to a video over the weekend, and she was saying, you gotta care about how you feel. Like, that must be the ultimate thing. You gotta care about how you feel, and it is our job, our work, to change a narrative, do what needs to be done to if you want to feel better, because that's what makes for a better life experience, right? And quality of life. You got to care about how you feel the most, and that's like doing what it's necessary to change that narrative so that you don't have those heavy feelings, that resentment. What do you think about that? Hello.
Hey, I'm kind of looking at, I was scrolling through to see. I'd love to hear what folks, the kind of questions that people have around forgiveness. Like, what are your thoughts on forgiveness? Is it easy for you to do? Is it challenging? If you don't, if forgiveness isn't something that comes easy to you, I'd love to know why. My thoughts on it are exactly that. I think that sometimes people get confused with, I'm not going to forgive this person because then that means that I agree with what they did. And I think that if they're, it takes something from you to hold on to anger. There's something that happens in your body that is not good for you, that does not feel good to you when you are in a state of anger. And if you don't believe me, or if you'd like to understand how that plays out for you, think about somebody that you're pissed off with, and then feel into what does that feel like in your body when you think about those circumstances, or when you think about that person, or when you think about how you need to protect yourself from that person. Consider what happens within your body. Where does that discomfort reside? The hardest for you has been to forgive yourself. I understand. Listen, it's perfectly understandable. And I think the fact that you are starting with yourself means that you're in a really good place, And sometimes we treat ourselves with harshness that we don't treat other people with, And sometimes we are the hardest person, or it's the hardest for us to forgive ourselves. And I think that if you were to ask yourself a couple of questions, like, what was your intention? in doing what you did? And what was what was the motivating thing behind what you did? Because as Keasha mentioned, a lot of times people do things, they do it from a place of hurt or pain. And once you understand that, and once you can have some grace for you having made that decision from a place of pain or from a place of hurt, or because you had a need that you wanted to fulfill, it helps you to see yourself with a little bit more humanity, and to understand that you're a human being walking a path, you're on a journey somewhere. And along the way, you kind of stagger sometimes. A child, you wouldn't judge a child for falling over a couple of times as they're learning to walk. I think sometimes if we were to take the same acceptance and grace that we apply to other people, to our very best friends, and bring that toward ourselves, we would find ourselves really being in a place of a lot less pain.
Having grace for ourselves and knowing that that place that we were in during that period of time, we were doing the best that we could with what we had. And Lisane, yeah, I mean, think about that. And the thing is, another way of looking at it, like if you think about it too much, it's like we cannot change what's already been done. It's about being able to take from that experience how we've been able to learn and move different or make different choices now as the thing that is the gem in that. Now there's some people, okay, so people are blowing it up, talking, say, okay, so the next thing, I don't know who Poochie is, but being vulnerable, you said, is not good for the wrong. There's something compliment about that for the wrong people. Oh, I can. Gosh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, you have to try to keep up with them. I do. While you're looking really quickly, I do want to say that sometimes we are the hardest person to forgive. And I think that a lot of that comes from us putting these like expectations on ourselves that we're perfect, or that we have to do everything in the right way. And while it can sometimes be challenging for us to forgive ourselves, it is the biggest release that you can have. Because once you forgive yourself, and I mean genuinely forgive yourself, and in a minute, I'm going to walk you all through something that I've learned, a forgiveness process that I've learned that you can then apply, to situations in your own life. Certainly want to walk you through that, because I don't want to just talk about the what, we want to talk about how, how can you do this? But I do want to say that applying forgiveness to yourself in the same way that you would another person, taking a step back, remembering that you love this, that there's a heart connection between you and yourself, and allowing yourself to see yourself as, I think someone in here mentioned a toddler. Sometimes we have these incredible expectations for ourselves, and we aren't willing to see ourselves as any less than the person that we see through the eyes of judgment. And if you can see yourself as at the core of who you are, it'll help you to soften yourself up enough to be willing to forgive. Thank you, Hannah. Hey, Hannah. Hannah is in the house.
Hannah's in the house. So I wanted to say something because there's some things. So PM Home Organization said, your perspective is great. Ultimately, our feelings are valid, but our reaction to the situation is our responsibility. And then Jessica says, sometimes my forgiveness looks like never speaking to that person again. I usually don't do closure.
Yeah.
Closure. Please speak. I want to speak to that a bit, because I feel like sometimes, or a lot of times, people feel like they need some kind of closure from the other person, which is still another way of keeping you tied to that person, that in order for you to be able to feel better, you need some sort of closure. Telling them everything that's on your mind, getting an apology. Can we speak to that? Because that is not a factor that's necessary for that act of forgiveness.
Sorry,
but
sorry. The person doesn't have to be there. I think that's what happens sometimes is the person, we have this fantasy that there's going to be this moment of closure where I sit down across from that person and I tell that person everything, and then they tell me everything. A lot of times we don't want to hear everything they have to say. We just want to sit down and tell them, all the ways that I did wrong. And you can't always get that. Sometimes the person's not available, or maybe they're not here anymore, unfortunately, right? And so the closure that you can give to yourself is more a ritual of releasing yourself from the drama in the situation, releasing yourself from your anger and any negative emotion that you may have, and any negative energy that exists between you and your perception, your vision of that person, your thoughts around that person. And
your role, right? Because forgiveness is an act. It's a very powerful, it's not a passive act, right? It's a conscious, deliberate act. And when we can look at things and shift our narratives from putting us in the place of being that smaller person, the person who made this big mistake. If only I hadn't done that, or let them do it, and things could be different. Whatever that narrative is, I just want to tell them how they made me feel, and what their actions did to me, and how it's impacted me. When we hold on so tightly to these things, and in the act of releasing that, we do gain our power back, because all of those narratives of they still have a part of, you're essentially saying you have a part of me, but really I've allowed you to take it because of my thought process around it. But it's not. So forgiveness is an act of gaining back our power.
I think you're absolutely right on target, Keasha. And in order for you to be angry and hold that with another person, there has to be, like I talked about before, there's an energy between you and that person. And here's the thing. Sometimes we decide, I'm not going to forgive that person, and I'm going to show that person, like I'm going to make them change, or I'm going to show that person by not speaking to them. But here's the thing. They don't even know what's going on most of the time. They are just going about their lives, doing their thing. And we have created this situation, which is another way of saying what you're talking about, Keasha. We've created this situation where we are now taking responsibility for the entire situation. We're taking all the pain, we're taking all the anger, and we're holding that to ourselves. So if you think about yourself, and I'm going to talk about energy for a moment, and it could be kind of woo-woo, but try to look at it, woo-woo, right? And
we're woo.
For application purposes, let's say that I'm angry with you, Keasha. Let's say you and I are angry with each other, right? And I'm really mad at you because the other day I walked past you and I looked you in your eye and you did not say hello to me, and you were on the phone and you ignored me like I wasn't there. Okay. And so now I'm angry. I'm annoyed, right? I'm hurt. I'm annoyed. Okay. And I'm mad at you. So now my thought about you, there's this energy between you and I that I've created, right? That is filled with anger and hurt and sadness and all the other things. Okay. You don't really know anything about it because you have your own experience, right? So what forgiveness does is it allows me to, in my own mind's eye, because that's where a lot of our experience in life takes place, in our own mind's eye, right? It gives me the ability to say, okay, Keasha, even if I'm not saying it to you, I'm saying it to my vision of you, my perspective of you, right? You have done something to offend me. Or I felt offended by something that you did. This, whatever those things are, okay? And there are a lot of different ways that you can perform a forgiveness exercise. I'm going to walk you through kind of like what the highlights of it are, and then I'm going to tell you step by step how you can do it in like 5 minutes, okay? So there's something you've done. So what I want to do is I want to get clear with myself about what that thing actually is. That's where you want to really start. So you want to, like, even, and again, you're not saying it to that person. This is between you before you ever get to that person. Okay. So you can write it down. You can do a video. You can scream it into whatever works for you to get it out. What did this person do? What did that person do that was offensive to you? Right? Whatever those things are. And once you have clarity on what those things are, you want to think a little bit about, you know, how have I, you know, your place in it and that person's place in it. Okay. So now what's done is you've taken this energy that's kind of like this emotional energy and you've brought some clarity to it. So you know what the thing is. Okay. Sometimes it's one thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, one big offense, or sometimes it's, you know, a bunch of little ones. Once you're clear about what those are, then what you're going to do, and there are a lot of different ways of doing this. I actually learned this from Huna. I study Huna, which is a Hawaiian spiritual and energetic practice. And part of my Huna teachings has been about forgiveness. Okay, Ho'oponopono, which is what it's referred to in Hawaii. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. All right. Once you're clear about what that is, you literally bring yourself into a centered state so that you're speaking from a clear place. And you bring that person, and I'm really oversimplifying it because of time, okay? You bring that person into your mind's eye. And then you bring that situation to your mind's eye. And you're talking to that person, but in your own mind's eye, and you're talking about everything that you want to say to that person. You know, Bob, I'm really upset because you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that, whatever it is. And then you're imagining that that person is replying with anything that they may have to say to you. Once you have everything on the table, what you're going to do is you're going to, in the space that exists between you and this person, you're going to imagine that your volume, I don't know if it's, can you hear me?
Volume. We haven't changed. I can hear you fine. Can you all hear other folks? Poochie can't hear right now, but yeah, it's sorry. You just got to check yours.
And then
go ahead.
You're going to imagine that all of that energy between you and that person, that there is almost like a golden sword almost, right? That cuts the energy between you and that person. There's a lot of different ways to do it. One of the ways that I do it is in my mind's eye, with my left hand, I say, what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine. So my right hand is to my heart. My left hand is about where my heart is toward that other person. What's yours is yours, Keasha, and what's mine is mine. And then I just do this, right? And what it does is it cuts energetically, it cuts that energy that existed, that negative energy that existed in the space between you and me. Okay? And it's thank you.
Yeah.
Thank yourself for having done it. And then you move forward. Now, for huge offenses, is that one time going to work? Sometimes you have to do it a few times, okay? You have to practice it. But the goal here is, and my recommendation is, that you bring forgiveness into your life, that you integrate it into a routine practice in your life. Because the more you're willing to forgive, what you're really saying is that I'm willing to let go. I'm willing to live in a cleaner emotional space for myself. I'm willing to take some garbage that happens in my life on a daily basis, and I'm willing to consciously cut those cords between myself and those experiences so that I can walk in a cleaner way, so I can walk forward without dragging along the baggage of every single offense that has happened in my life. So in the programs that I have, I talk a lot more about like how to do it, and we get more deeper into it. But what I'd love to leave with the audience now is it's a practice. So don't just do it once and then come back and say, Lisane, you said I was never going to be mad anymore. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is be conscious about your emotions and the way that you're experiencing your emotions and the way that you are managing the energy around you. Because the more I'm willing to release and let go of things, the more of me you get to experience, right? Because I'm not sitting here like, yeah, and I'm mad at this one, and I'm mad at that one, and I'm mad at this one. I'm mad.
Absolutely. Wholeness and presence you can bring, care about how you feel. And we have to do this. And I want to hone in on the practice part, because I talk about practice as a way, different things being a practice, patient being a practice, personal branding being a practice, forgiveness being a practice, really understanding, getting to know who you are, not what conditions have been put on you, just making it a practice, releasing, receiving, giving, all of it, because it's never a one and done, y'all. We can be very well, along in our journeys, and we have varying ways and I guess determinations of how much healing or spirituality. However, as long as we're here on this earth, there's always work to do. And that's why we have practices in place to support us, because we can get sucked in. We live in a dense field, right, as humans. And so things can happen and we can get sucked into an old story or a reaction. And it's all right, but practicing helps us be really all right for ourselves and for those that we spend the most time with, for those who are watching us. You got to care about how you feel. And Lisane, thank you so much for providing like these steps for us to utilize, because it's so, it's so important. It's so important. We all need it. None of us get through life without feeling slighted, feeling hurt, disrespected in some way, but we don't have to carry it with us.
Can I add one
on and on and on and on?
I just want to say
Absolutely.
that, when you are in conversation and interaction with people, and when you have in the periphery anger toward other people, you're carrying something along that happened 10 years ago, you're pissed off because you are thinking that this person is thinking a certain thing. What it does is it means that you are showing up as less of yourself. You cannot be fully present when you're really not in the room. And you cannot really be in the room 1,000 different. Keasha, it is a practice. It's not something that happens overnight, but the more you do around meditation and journaling and getting out and releasing them, being willing to let go, the better you will feel, and the more quality of life you'll get to experience. Aloha, Pucci. Yeah.
Pucci. Okay, so y'all, this concludes today's episode of Conversations with Keasha on Forgiveness. Lisane is someone I consider to be my friend, a sister friend. I have watched and seen the demonstration of how Lisane carries herself in the world. And I know the woman is busy, okay? And has a lot of engagement and interactions with a lot of people, most of the time. And the fact that you take the time for those who are important to you to let them know you care, that you check in, that is, I think, an act of knowing how to hold your own energy to be able to give that. Because if you're like we were saying, here and there and everywhere, and y'all, it's not going to be a 100% success rate all the time. That's why we practice, right? But when you can
do it most of the time, then it absolutely is evident in how you be. I like to say that, how you be in the world and how you treat
Thank
others,
you.
how they feel
Yeah.
in your
This
presence,
was a
and you do
great
wonderful.
conversation. I have to hop. Thank you, Emma. I have to hop. I do want to say one thing, right? I worked with Keasha. I worked with Keasha through Striking Statements a few years ago. And we are sister friends. So we're in contact all the time. So I get a lot of your wonderful brilliance on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for the work that you're doing and the way that you really embody the messaging the message that you have for other people about showing up more authentically and in their own skin. So I just want to give you like a public shout out for that, because I love the work that you do and the ways that you help people and brands to be courageous and consistent and thoughtful and reliable about who they are and how they're showing up. So thank you.